Hey guys, Brandon here, back with another video. In this one, we're going to answer the number one most important question that you have to answer before you can become a YouTuber slash videographer slash cinematographer slash filmmaker. Whatever you call yourself, you have to answer this question first. And that question is, what camera do I use? Whether it's one you currently have and are going to start using or one you're going to buy to start using, you have to figure that out. You need a camera to make videos. So to answer that question, I really broke it down into three categories. And each of these categories has two questions, and if you can answer all these questions accurately and sincerely, then you will have a much better idea of what camera you need. And so these three categories are your current tech, your current finances, and your current needs. So with the first category, your current tech, do you have a good smartphone camera? For example, I have the iPhone 12 Pro. This has a fantastic camera. It can shoot 4K video, and so this could easily be my YouTube camera. In fact, I know of some YouTubers, I'll put a link to one of them, his name is Spawn Point, down in the description. He films exclusively on the iPhone. I think he uses the 11, and he shows you how he does all of that, but he just uses an iPhone. He doesn't buy an expensive $800 DSLR because he already has an expensive $1,200 smartphone. So that's the first question. Do you have a good smartphone camera? If you do, you don't need to worry about buying a dedicated video camera because you have your phone. You can spend that money on other things, which gets to point number 3 later. Second question in the first category, do you know anybody who has gear, who has a camera that you could use or a phone that you could use? For example, if any of my friends here in where I live asked me to help them make a YouTube channel, I would tell them, hey, don't worry about buying a camera. Let me use my cameras. I'll help you set them up. I'll help you film. I'll even help you edit. I'll probably charge you a little bit because that's quite a lot of work. But I would be willing to loan my gear or rent it out to people who need it so that you don't have to spend what is like $1,000 or more for my current setup. If you have somebody who has gear, if you know somebody, ask to borrow it. Ask to rent it. That could save you so much money starting out. And then later, when you get some steady income from your video work, you can upgrade your gear incrementally. You don't have to start out with the best, and you don't have to upgrade it all at once. That's a mindset I have to kind of get myself out of because I love buying, I love looking at new gear, I love buying new gear, but I don't need all the new gear. I have a pretty good setup as is. So that's the first category. Second category is your finances. First, what is your budget? How much money do you have set aside to spend on filmmaking gear? Not how much money can you spend, not how much money do you have saved, how much money do you have set aside for this purpose. For example, if you have $1,000 in savings or in checking, but you haven't dedicated any of that to video gear, you have $0 to spend on video gear. Do not spend, which I'm talking to myself here just as much as to you guys, do not spend your savings on camera gear. That defeats the purpose of the savings. If you're saving for retirement, for an emergency fund, for a down payment on a house, for any big life event coming up, don't dip into that money to buy camera gear. Maybe if you're giving $300 a month to that savings, maybe cut that in half and split it between gear savings and life savings. So what is your budget is the first question. Second question is what's on sale? Camera gear goes on sale all the time. For example, the M50 that I'm currently using, the M50 Mark II came out recently or is coming out soon. And so the price on the M50 is going to drop almost certainly very soon. Or around Black Friday. If you just hold out for a couple more months, Black Friday hits, everything goes on sale. And you can get cameras so much more cheaply. In fact, that's why I started the camera that I started with. It was cheap, it was on sale, and so I bought it. And then I stuck with that line of cameras for a little while, and then I started branching out once I got comfortable with that one. So if you find cameras that are on sale, you can save yourself hundreds of dollars on gear and really just free up your money to spend on lights and microphones and stands and tripods and everything else that you need as a filmmaker instead of just spending all your money on a single camera. So that's section number 2. Now for section number 3, your needs. First, do you plan to do photography or videography? That really determines the direction of the gear that you're doing. It can determine the brand of the cameras you're using. It can determine the focal length of the lenses. It can determine whether you want to do full frame, crop sensor, micro four thirds. There's so many questions that go into, or so many other questions that go into each of these two categories that are not the same. There's some overlap, but it's a Venn diagram. There's some that are just photo, there's some that are just video, some just photo, some just video, some that are here in the middle. For example, if you're doing video, you need a microphone. If you're doing photo, you don't need a microphone, but you do need maybe an external flash if you're going to do some outdoor stuff or in some low light stuff. So decide, photo or video. That also determines the brand of camera you're probably going to use. If you're going for photo, lean more towards Canon or Nikon. They make great photo cameras that do good video. But if you're going to do video, lean towards Sony, Panasonic, and a little bit of Fujifilm. They do great video cameras that do good photos. And then the second question in this last category is, what else do you need? You don't just need a camera, which kind of ties into the first part. Once you figure out what your niche, what your target, your goal is, you can determine what else do I need and start allocating money towards that. And if you have a good camera, or your buddy has a good camera but they don't have lights, then you spend your money on lights and a microphone and borrow his camera. If you know somebody at a church who has cameras and lights that you could use, but they don't have a good microphone, spend your money on a microphone and borrow their cameras and their lights and their studio. If you don't have a studio set up, kind of like I do, one, you could just figure that out. I'll make a video in the near future about my studio setup. But find somebody who has an empty bedroom or just rearrange your apartment. But if you answer all 6 of these questions, you can really figure out the direction you need to go. There is no one catch-all answer to what camera do you need, what lens do you need, what lights do you need. I'm doing a very different setup than any of the YouTubers I watch and follow. Partially because I'm still starting out. Partially because I like the minimalistic, more affordable option because that's more accessible to more people. If you have any more questions about getting into filmmaking, cameras, lenses, gear, drop those questions in the comments down below. But that's it for this video. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. That really helps the algorithm. It lets me know you like this so I can create more content like it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Later, nerds.